When patients are fitted with their first hearing aids, they frequently report two immediate, jarring sensations. Environmental sounds like rustling paper feel painfully sharp, and the user's own voice produces a hollow, robotic echo. Clinical audiologists anticipate that sharpness. The high-frequency intensity is a deliberate, necessary feature of the fitting process, not a hardware defect. To understand why, we have to look at the physiological toll of untreated hearing loss. Over years of auditory decline, the brain is slowly deprived of high-frequency sensory input. This is the anatomy of the peripheral auditory system. When the delicate hair cells in the cochlea degrade, the auditory nerve stops sending high-frequency data to the central processing zones of the brain. The brain physically adapts to this silence. To recover speech comprehension, the auditory nervous system must be forced through a period of neuroplastic acclimatization. It has to relearn how to process those missing consonant sounds. That high-frequency sharpness is the sound of dormant neural pathways being reactivated. The biological discomfort is proof that the therapy is working. But the second complaint, the metallic, robotic echo of the user's own voice, is entirely different. That hollow sound provides zero neuroplastic benefit. It is an electroacoustic artifact that must be eliminated. Audiologists program these devices using strict fitting rationales, balancing two competing strategies: loudness normalization and equalization. Standard algorithms like NAL, NL2 rely heavily on equalization. The goal is to make all speech bands equally audible, ensuring weak, high-frequency consonants are clear, regardless of how a damaged cochlea naturally perceives them. To achieve this clarity, the algorithm strictly limits low-frequency gain. If low-frequency sounds are amplified too much, they trigger the upward spread of masking. Powerful low-frequency waves will physically overwhelm the weaker high-frequency cues along the basilar membrane. By clamping down on the masking low frequencies and pushing the high frequencies, the hearing aid inevitably produces that bright, sharp sound quality the patient experiences on day one. But that clinical logic does not explain why the patient's own voice sounds hollow or metallic. That specific metallic coloration does not restore speech cues. It does not prevent masking. It serves absolutely no medical purpose. The robotic voice is an engineering failure. It is a digital signal processing error that occurs in the milliseconds after sound enters the hardware. Most modern hearing instruments use open-canal or vented fittings, allowing the ear to remain partially unblocked. This physical setup creates two distinct pathways for sound. Path A is the direct acoustic path. Unamplified sound travels through the open vent and strikes the eardrum at the speed of sound. Path B is the electronic path. The exact same acoustic wave enters the hearing aid's microphone, gets converted to digital data, processed by the microchip, and emitted by the receiver. Two waves travel down the ear canal. The gray direct wave slips through the vent, while the blue wave enters the hardware. Inside, the blue wave halts for digital conversion. Meanwhile, the gray wave continues moving freely toward the eardrum. The time required to perform those electronic calculations is known as group delay. Because the processor requires time to calculate, the amplified wave will always arrive at the eardrum slightly after the direct acoustic wave. This creates a physical constraint. Two versions of the exact same sound will collide at the eardrum at different times. The severity of that delay depends on the processor's architecture. The industry standard is a frequency domain system utilizing uniform filter banks. These systems use a fast Fourier transform, or FFT. The algorithm captures a continuous analog sound wave and mathematically dissects it into discrete, equally spaced frequency bins. Inside the processor, the continuous blue wave is sliced into uniform channels. Its forward momentum is completely paused while the FFT builds a data block. To preserve battery life, the system downsamples this data, discarding resolution to speed up calculations. Despite the downsampling, this block-based mathematical conversion requires an average 5.0 to 8.0 millisecond group delay. In the physical world, sound travels the entire length of the human ear canal in a fraction of a millisecond. 8 milliseconds of calculation time is an eternity in acoustic physics. By utilizing an FFT architecture, the device guarantees that the amplified blue wave will be late to the tympanic membrane. When the late amplified wave finally exits the receiver, it crashes into the direct acoustic wave, already vibrating the eardrum. This plot shows the gray direct wave and blue processed wave completely out of sync. As these misaligned waves overlap, they interact. Where peaks align, constructive interference wildly doubles the volume. Where they oppose, destructive interference cancels the sound entirely. The human auditory system is exceptionally sensitive to timing. Listeners with mild to moderate hearing loss can detect coloration pitch variations from phase mismatch at a delay of just 0.6 milliseconds. Shifting to the frequency spectrum graph, the damage becomes visible. The interference carves deep cancellation valleys across the audible range. Engineers call this the comb filter effect because the sharp peaks and severe drop-offs physically resemble teeth on a comb. Those massive artificial peaks and dead zones in the frequency response are exactly what patients hear. The comb filter's mathematics translate directly into the perception of a hollow, tinny, and robotic voice. The metallic artifact is entirely a byproduct of FFT latency. It is the sound of phase mismatch tearing the natural spectral envelope apart. Solving the phase mismatch requires abandoning the FFT bottleneck entirely in favor of non-uniform time domain filter banks. Time domain architecture avoids block-based processing by analyzing the audio stream continuously without downsampling. Instead of rigid mathematical channels, it uses variable width filters that mirrored the physical structure of the human cochlea, narrow at low frequencies, wide at high frequencies. Running the two architectures side by side, the latency difference is clear. The FFT wave gets trapped in a block calculation, while the time domain wave flows continuously. Without block processing, group delay drops below 2.5 milliseconds. In specialized operating conditions, it falls to 0.5 milliseconds. At 0.5 milliseconds, the device's processing latency is officially faster than the 0.6 millisecond human detection threshold for coloration pitch variations. By operating faster than the auditory system's ability to perceive the delay, time domain architecture mathematically eliminates the DSP bottleneck. When we return to the collision point at the tympanic membrane with the time domain wave, the acoustic environment changes. Look at the amplitude over time axis now. The blue time domain wave slides perfectly into alignment with the gray direct acoustic wave. With the phase mismatch eliminated, the destructive interference ceases. The jagged, comb-like frequency spectrum smooths out into a flat, natural response curve. The biological adjustment required to hear high frequencies is medicine. The temporal delay causing a robotic voice is a disease. To eliminate that artifact, professionals and patients prioritize ultra-low latency architectures when evaluating electroacoustic device specifications. When advanced engineering removes these acoustic artifacts, the brain is finally freed from processing noise and can devote its entire cognitive bandwidth to neuroplastic recovery.